I want to go over some links between our supposed so-called junk DNA and our collective conscious. Now, this has become kind of a buzzword on the internet, collective conscious, but we are being programmed. Actually, it's been known for many years that our body and our minds can be programmed by language, words, and thought. It's been scientifically proven and explained, and also if you even look at the music that was changed to the 440 hertz from the 432 hertz, the 440 hertz was actually derived from the Nazis, and it was actually in the 50s where the Rockefeller Foundation, I believe it was, it switched over to music to the 440 hertz. It's kind of like a militaristic, conformist type language. So I'm going to put a few of these pictures out here with Harley Davidson and some biker girls with hitting a kickstart, because it's a representation of individuality and freedom, even though it's become a little bit of a conformist play biker thing to kind of go along with this being nonconformist and being free in a true sense. So anyway, the human DNA is a biological internet, and it's far more powerful than the internet that we see in our technological world, which is artificial. So the Russian scientists have actually discovered that what the Western scientists have not discovered, basically, that the most scientists in the world, actually in the West and throughout the world, except for maybe the Russians, have determined that most of our DNA is junk DNA. But use a little common sense, it's almost like primitive man going up to this bike over here and saying, well, this doesn't do anything, and that doesn't do anything, and this doesn't do anything. Well, maybe it does do something, right? Because you don't understand it, it's there for a reason. So there's actually other things going on with our supposed junk DNA, and it actually has to do with our collective consciousness. And actually, this is how we can, the unexplained phenomena of clairvoyance, intuition, and spontaneous remote acts of healing, self-healing, and other things that happen where people actually sometimes get superhuman strength to save somebody, or they just have a feeling that, they're down there and that's where I need to go. It's actually the junk it's the bad label, I shouldn't call it. It's that 90% of the DNA that they don't understand is actually doing it. And it's what is connecting us to each other. Now, actually, in the animal world, some of this actually comes into play and is proven, and we just don't understand it. We think it's intuition, but there's other things going on. So it's actually the DNA that's not only responsible for the construction of our body, but also serves as a data storage and communication. That's the supposed quote-unquote useless DNA. We're actually communicating with each other on a spiritual level. Maybe it's not a spiritual level. Maybe it's a DNA level. I don't know what it's actually through the DNA. It's actually through the DNA that they don't understand. So living DNA is in a living tissue and will always react to language modulated laser rays and even radio waves. So we are actually being subjected to this all the time throughout the media, propaganda. It's through Hollywood that's actually making us into a conformist society. So I want to show pictures of people that represent nonconformity. At least they represented nonconformity back when this was brand new. Now it's conformity in itself. But an example to give you an example from nature, how we act, how say something even as low as an insect or an ant communicates with each other. The example would be the queen ant, say, is separated from her colony, right? The remainder worker ants will continue building the hive or whatever it is according to plan, or the labyrinth according to plan, even when the queen ant is gone, right? But if the queen ant is killed, all work on the colony stops. That's a proven fact. And what they always kind of say, it's just nature, it's intuition. But there's something else going on here. That's actually probably why they killed JFK. Well, we know they killed JFK, but actually they killed John F. Kennedy because it was about help destroy the collective consciousness of America. And, by doing it in such a manner, they could have actually had him just die of some natural cause, but they wanted to make it like a shock value. And that's what's going on with these clowns, to tell you the truth. It's like people on the top are evil as all hell. and but we can actually overpower them through collective consciousness and just willing them away too. I mean, it's part of, it's like one person can't do it, but a lot of people can. But that's why you don't want to be defeated before you get started. You want to keep that supposed quote unquote positive attitude. So actually, in humans, hypercommunication is often going on all the time, and a lot of times this is the thing where people say they've been inspired, but it's something else that's actually going on. Any collective consciousness cannot sensibly be used over a long period of time without distinctive individuality, or else you start becoming, in other words, you can't be having a collective conscious and unless you are, where it could work for a benefit, unless you are an individual. So, the problem is with stuff like this versus, when you're wearing you're having to conform to religious norms, it's actually destroying the consciousness of the people that are being forced into extremely religious, rigid norms or rules. That's what happens. And, whereas in the United States, we don't have that problem. We have maybe other problems where we're actually getting collectively forced and rigidly forced into Hollywood-inspired norms. But then again, there's a lot of people that do not think outside that way. But sometimes the collective consciousness can be moved by individuals acting alone, then contributing to that, and that actually makes something happen. Now, I want to get into a little more of that because, it sounds like, what the hell am I talking about there? But I just want to say that the primitive tribes absolutely knew this. The primitive tribes, and they still know this. It's like one individual cannot influence the weather. But the tribes believe as a group of individuals, they can influence the weather. Actually, I remember reading there was some tribes by the Aborigines over in Australia. I forgot to, this was some years ago, but there was a problem on one of the space programs. I don't know if it was a Apollo space program, and they just could not resolve it. In Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy, they could not resolve the problem, and there was actually said that Aborigines did these chants to help them, and this insurmountable problem went away. I can't remember the exact example on that because I read it many years ago, and I thought that was pretty spooky but there are things like that that do happen, and it's like when you have individuals that are not being forced to be collective, but individuals acting on their own for a common goal, then they all come together for a common goal. That actually has a lot more strength to it. Now, what's going on here is actually people are using the other part of their DNA that most scientists don't understand, the part that the Russians are starting to understand. And actually, it's kind of all related to, things that go on even with water having a memory, because they say that you can actually take frequencies from DNA, and it could be in water or another medium, and they could take the DNA out of it, and that imprint is still there for quite some time. So, there's other things they say, like they can measure like electromagnetic fields outside the heart or the body, but when it's very, very weak, but when it's combined with everybody, it makes a big difference. So a big game that the elite try to do is they try to make you have a defeatist attitude before you even get started, so you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of ever winning. So basically, the modern day civilization, it develops this group consciousness that is basically forced on people. It's not natural. So this is maybe from the 70s here. It's more like a freedom type thing. And, today they probably have 50 million signs on here. You're not allowed to ride a motorcycle on the beach. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. No this, no that. Even like some of the stuff that goes on where people are trying to escape from society or say escape from all the regimentation that goes on through maybe fitness programs. You see a lot of this going on in California where everybody's like getting into fitness left and right. They become conformists too. They become conformists. They're trying to escape from being forced to be conformists, and then they become conformists through other ways. But basically, DNA is also an organic superconductor that can also work at the normal body temperature. It's got the capability of being an internet information superhighway, far more technologically advanced than anything that we actually see on the internet. And when the individuals come together willingly as a group conscious, they can move mountains. They can move anything. They can even start this bike. Anyway, I'm sure the timing is too retarded on here or something. But anyway, I don't know. But anyway, the thing is, some of this is actually proven, because sometimes people have these unexplained things happen. There's remote viewing. Like, they've proven that this can happen. It's not like it's black and white, but it's almost like, where they proved that, where they had computers that do random digits. The computer will do random digits, a 0 or a 1, 0 or a 1, and random. Over a period of, so many hours or so many days, it's 50% zeros, 50% ones. They proved that people can actually will the computer to go to more ones. It's not like a lot, but it's a significant number where it's doing something where they can actually will a machine to do something, which doesn't seem to make sense. But that's one person. See, when a collective does that, it makes a big difference. Now, what's really probably going on is through this DNA that they say is the junk DNA. The junk DNA is not junk DNA. It's not junk DNA. There's something going on. There's a memory and a communication and a vibration. And I don't know, somehow we're all more connected than we think we are. That's just how it is. It sounds kind of weird, but that's just how it is. But the thing to remember most about this is not to try to force yourself into a collective, not to try to make yourself conform to something. You are your own individual, unique person, but it's the will of all individual people when they come together to form a group effort that makes the difference. And this is where the elite are afraid of, actually, because they realize they're trying to control people through so many different ways, through drugs, through the lousy food that brings down our cellular frequency, through the genetically modified foods, through all the sounds that we hear, through music and everything like that. Whereas, chemtrails or whatever the hell else we got going on, and it's a matter of controlling people. That's what they're looking to do. But it's probably... I tend to think they don't know everything, and if people actually have a positive attitude about we can overcome the problems, they will overcome the problems as a collective. Not that you want to give up your individuality, I just want to repeat that again, but if you work together as individuals, but as a team, you will overcome the greatest problems going. So a lot of this research is actually coming about from Russian scientists, and these are some of their assistants and some of the things they drink to bring about these great discoveries, like vodka, which is a great healer. I don't know how many medicinal things are for vodka, but there's probably volumes that are lost to history, or lost unless you dig them out, but they're probably not printed on the internet for medicinal purposes to vodka. But the inspiration for a lot of these ideas to look down these paths actually came from vodka, which probably has a spiritual life of its own. And we can thank some of the Russian scientists for actually telling us something that seems to make a lot of common sense. Why would we have 90% junk DNA? Just because the Western scientists don't think it has no use, they label it junk DNA because they don't know what it's for. The Russian scientists are actually figuring out that it actually has something to do with our collective consciousness, communication, and a type of memory that is beyond what we consciously see. It's like a subconscious consciousness, I guess you would call it, where everything is linked. So there's other things that go on, but the biggest way you get defeated is if you think you can't do it. So old girl here is pulling a trailer with a bike on. This is impossible, and I can't possibly have my dog back here too, but she says I can do it, so she did it. She did it. And that's the whole thing. She's got the positive attitude to get where she's got to go, and she's taking the other bike, the dog, and the luggage, and it's all going on two wheels, and we're going to make it. We're going to make it one way or the other. And if you even think about it, this is how the Americans went west. It was a tough trip going all the way west to California, and forget about the conformatism of the East Coast, right? Anyway, so it's something to think about. Now the West Coast has gotten conformist, so whatever, it's like you got to go somewhere else, and maybe northern New Mexico, who knows? But anyway, that's really what it is. That the junk DNA is actually probably has a hell of a lot to do with this thing they call our collective consciousness, where we're actually communicating with each other and sending out signals that we cannot actually measure. They give this big word out there called quantum physics or things like that, and they're saying like it can't be, but actually one person can't quite make the big difference, but when you start talking in like a large group, you can make a huge difference. And what they want to do, and you don't want to be a group like this is conformist. Yeah, you don't want to be a group like that either, because those are really, really major conformists. You want to actually be something where you feel like you are free. You are free, and you got the world, you own the world, and you can influence the world. It's just that, and you can go anywhere you want to go. So, anyway, have a good smoke, and over and out.